One of the most interesting things I learned was just how much music can help heal the soul when people need it the most. Yeah, and I think we are living in a day and age now where there's a lot of folks out there that feel like they want to connect and they want to heal, and sometimes you just got to extend that hand to them. So I welcome everybody into the circle, and I want you all to do the same thing whenever you get that chance here, because standing up in front of my community and watching people suffer and have such a hard time because they lost people, and a lot of times it was in tragic ways. You know, singing sad songs seemed to be the best thing for me to do. So I wrote a song about it, and it's called Sad Songs, and I hope y'all like it.
In this episode, Tanner got to sit down with Willy Big Bull, who shares his experience growing up in Piikani Nation and the way that navigating identity and culture has shaped him. Willy touches on many of the formative experiences that molded him into an artist with a unique set of circumstances and an incomparable body of honest and sincere work.
To make you think you meant so much to me. If I could only hold you like this bottle in my hand, well then maybe, baby, you could understand. Think that you're the only one, but I was only having fun, I swear. I never meant you any harm. Kinda thought you would realize by the time we'd hit the morning light, the booze is more convincing than my charm. You can only wonder if I'll be here when you wake. Well, I guess that's just a chance you've got to take. I don't see the need for me to stay. I ain't got a good thing left to say. Rest assured I will get what I deserve someday. Lord, until then I'll be drinking my guilt away. Talking two-part misery, two-part pride, two-part ornery, and one big lie gonna chase it down. The bitter taste of shame. Got shots of misery, jars of wine, jugs of dirty old moonshine. Feeling too damn old to play this game. Once again, my old friend, the bottle let me down. Oh, and now I'm whiskey bed, misery bar. I don't see the need for me to stay. I ain't got a good thing left to say. Rest assured that I will get answer someday. Lord, until then I'll be drinking my guilt away. The morning always makes me think of memories to make me drink. Give me something strong to set my mind at ease. I got no one hanging around my door, empty bottles on my floor, and I've always hurt the ones I've tried to please. If I could only find some way to put this bottle down before it finally puts me in the ground. Drinking my guilt away, save your heartache for another day. You know I don't see no need to stay. Baby, I'm drinking my guilt away, save your heartache for come what may. Oh, right now I've been drinking, I'm gonna keep on drinking, baby. You know I'll be drinking my guilt away. Oh, yeah.
Willie, how you doing today?
Okay, I'm good. How are you, Tanner?
I'm doing great. Well,
Great.
thanks for being a part of the Weird in High School podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We just I got to see you perform at the Wide Skies Festival.
Yeah, that was my first time even attending a show there at the festival, and I was honored to get to actually be on the stage. So that was pretty wild for me, actually. One of my favorite groups was there, Blue Moon Marquee, and I got to meet all the folks from there, and that was awesome.
It's a beautiful festival, and it's I think it catches people off guard. You know, you're like, oh, there's a festival on top of a parking lot, and then you go up there and you're like, wow, this really works with the sun setting. And I like how there's a different kind of feeling based on where you're kind of slotted. Like the night show is very different than the day show, but you kind of get like lots of dynamics, and it's neat.
Yeah, they really build into the momentum of things throughout the evening. I'm glad they put me where they did. My job was to, warm up the crowd and get everybody ready for what was to come. And it gives me the chance to kind of blend things and curate it in a way that I feel like is going to fit the bill. And that was such a great lineup for me to be a part of.
Yeah, that was special. And we were there all 3 nights, and it kind of just, it was neat to see Lethbridge's appetite for a lot of different genres of music.
Oh yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah. The community really shows up for that kind of stuff, and there's only so many kind of occasions like that here in the city, and it's beautiful when you really see them come out for those kind of things. So yeah, it was great.
You can also really see, I think, the value and how lucky Lethbridge is to have someone like Mike Spencer, because it's started with a Geomatic Attic. It's his passion project, and then it's evolved into this next phase of kind of his wild dream, and we get to be the beneficiaries of someone's passion like that.
Totally, we're very lucky to have people like that here in this community in Suquehanna, in Lethbridge, and there's only so many of them, and vision is one thing, but when you have the ability to make it happen, and Mike, him and his team make it happen, it's not easy. I'm learning now with my new position at the Allied Arts that it's a lot of work, and there's a whole machine behind these kind of things, and Mike does an outstanding job at it, and he's got the personality, he's got the mindset, and the dedication to it. And I love the dynamics of the show that he builds too, it's all over the spectrum of music, so it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was really special. It was very cool to be there, and your performance was great. That was kind of my first live introduction to you, so that was cool.
Oh, thanks.
let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about, as I mentioned, the podcast is called Weird in High School. And a lot of times we talk about like, try to find that moment of spark where, your course changed from, maybe playing hockey to an acoustic guitar. Or what was that? So walk me through, where'd you grow up? Tell me about it.
So I was born in Wenatchee, Washington, which is it's in the Okanagan Valley, down about 2 hours away from Seattle, inland from Seattle. And growing up here in Canada, since I was 3 years old, on the Piikani Nation, which is known as Brockett, Alberta too, right? About an hour west of Lethbridge here. And I was a performer right from the get-go. I've always had that kind of a knack for wanting to entertain people and wanting to engage with people in that kind of a way. Anytime I could get people either laughing or, just enjoying what I was doing for them, that was always something that soothed my soul from a young age. And I think I just always had that performer's role inside of me. And it took some time for me to really find my footing. Through high school, I was more geared towards sports. I did good academically. I was always a popular kid in school. And I always found that there was some little circle that I belonged in the middle of. And I enjoyed the attention that I got in the middle of it too. And I seemed to fit into a lot of different circles too. I've always blended in with whatever crowd I chose to be a part of. And I think because of that, it really opened up this mindset that I've had of like, what it means to be two-spirited and to walk in two worlds, And my mother being non-native and my dad, he's from the Piikani Nation. He's black, full-blooded Piikani Blackfoot. And I've kind of always, had to walk somewhat of a racial tightrope, I say, and I've been in many crowds where I've heard the people talking about the other crowd, even as far back as high school. It was an interesting dynamic for me to experience, and I'm glad I experienced it because it taught me that like hatred doesn't care about your skin color, and ignorance goes both ways, and it takes two people to really, engage in a fight in that kind of a way. And speaking of fighting, I didn't do a whole lot of that outside of a hockey rink, but I did do a lot of that kind of engagement when the puck would drop. And not when I was a kid so much, but when I was a young adult, I went and played for a team called the Pagan Cowboys, or the Piikani Cowboys. And they were a senior A hockey team. And I built somewhat of a reputation, not for scoring goals, but punching people in the face from time to time. And I found there was only so many ways you could get people in the barn to stand up on their feet and cheer for you. And I wasn't the most capable at putting the puck in the back of the net, so sometimes I'd try to put my fist into people's mouth, and I got good at it. Fortunately for the circumstances, maybe more unfortunately for my soul and spirit. But it went both ways. We were all young combatants at the time, and I was always able to find another one. So that kind of fit the profile for what my job was, what I was there to do, what my job was, and my role as a hockey team. And I loved being in a team setting. It kind of was where I started musically when I was just a kid. I believe I was in maybe grade 3 or so. And some buddies of mine started wanting to, we had one day, first of all, a local drum group from Piikani come in, of these adolescent boys, and they were all between probably 15 to 20. And a lot of these fellas ain't around no more. believe it or not. They'd only be my age, like maybe in their 50s now. But back at the time, they were my first role models of these guys and these young men that came in to our classroom, and they taught us all how to drum, traditional drum. Wow. And it just evoked something within me. The sound of it and the feelings that it stirred up within me and all of my classmates, and it gave me this, desire to want to replicate that in some kind of a way. So not long after we watched that performance, me and some of my buddies, we started saying, hey, we want to learn how to do that. So some of them fellas from the drum group came back to our class, and they would come to, some of the spare time we'd get throughout the day, like a recess. All the kids would go outside to play, and we'd hang back, or else sometimes right after school, we'd stick around. And with the guidance of some of our elders, like Arthur Crowshoe, and there was some of the Bad Eagle boys, they called them, Bobby and Sidney Bad Eagle, and they're like young elders for us back in the day. They're only a few years older than me, but they kind of represented a role where we aspired to be, especially when it came to things like singing and drumming and our things of our culture. And I've always had a lot of respect for those people, and specifically those Bad Eagle boys. I met them at a young age, and they just kind of left that kind of a imprint on me, and before long, we started learning some songs, and we started getting a bit of a show together. And then some of the other classmates, some of the girls and the boys in our class, they started learning how to do traditional dance. Wow. And so we would drum and sing, and they would dance along behind us. And it didn't take long before we started getting invited to some of the community gatherings to come and show everybody our little show. And we were called the Singing Eagles. And it was great. We bounced around Alberta. I think we went to the U of A, and we went to the university here in Lethbridge. We visited Calgary for a couple of shows. And then also we went to some of the powwows in the area, and they would do a little special occasion where we'd get up and sing a couple of songs, and we sounded pretty decent. And at one point, we all got on school bus, and my mom was the bus driver at the time, and she took us all the way out to Vancouver. Wow. And we went and we sang for Seabird Island community out there, and we went right into the city, into Vancouver as well, and we met some other drum groups, Indigenous kids that were doing the same thing we were right there in the city. And we went to their little assembly gathering, and we all kind of had a competition with them, and it was really, really something else. And that was my very first experience of performing for people and being in a band and being with a group of people and hitting the road and seeing what it's like to have that anxiety and all that kind of stuff, bubbling up inside you before you finally get out there and do what you're there to do. And then the reward of all of the positive reinforcement that comes and the accolades that come along with it when you're a kid, it's quite the experience. And it has not wavered since I've become, a little later in my years now. I still have those same feelings. Sometimes it's very reminiscent of what I experienced when I was a child doing that stuff. But it really was the very first place where I ever had music, I feel like, as a part of my my being and who I was. And it's resonated this long, but it was a long way around because I took quite the detour. Aside from just playing hockey, that was always just for fun. I never even got paid to do it, aside for some gas money here and there. But I was a laborer. I was a construction worker for years and years and years, and I worked my way up the pyramid, and I became, a superintendent eventually and a workforce manager, and I worked my way in more of the health and safety role. And I tell people, like, I climbed the pyramid, and I started at the bottom and I got to the top there. and made a bunch of money and had a nice cushy gig, but I wasn't very satisfied with my quality of life and my position of employment, you know, and how I went about making a living. So the pandemic, being this blessing in disguise, offered an opportunity for me to step away from that and then start doing what I really love doing, which is what I'm doing right now, and making music and performing. And I have a wonderful job with the Allied Arts Council where I help, you know, promote all things art here in the city and help just enrich the fabric of our artist community here. And I love being a part of that. So it's been a long way. I went the long way around. It took quite the detour, maybe a bit of a scenic route to get to where I am. But I couldn't have had it any other way, because a lot of that has seeped into my music. And a lot of it has just taught me lessons that I feel like are invaluable to me. So, yeah.
It's
to answer that question.
It's a great answer.
I'm a bit of a storyteller, in case you can't tell.
That's who.
So that helped me get by too, Tanner.
That's who we want on this show. You know, there's no linear path to getting on a stage, and there's not for people of our age. There was less and less opportunity to kind of pursue that. It's funny when you're in it, the path forward can seem so foggy and random, but when you tell that story, it's easy to connect the dots. Like a lot of it makes sense, like with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, you start on one road and you think you know where you're heading to, and before you know it, you're somewhere completely different. Even the way I ended up becoming a tradesman, you know. And I worked so many obscure jobs and jobs that I felt like were dead ends for me. But when I got into the trades, it did offer not only like some very sustainable income, but it just kind of gave me, I guess, the discipline that I really needed in my life of getting up, getting out there to work each day. And it was hard work. Sometimes it was very, very excruciating. And because you could level up and there was somewhat of a ladder to climb, that gave me some goals and aspirations to reach for. But, you know, art, specifically music in my life, has always been one of those things that has just been always calling me, and it's always been there in the background. And the people that actually added to the happening of me becoming even a musician, you know, was my mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, my close friends and family. There was people really close to me in my circle. My dad gave me a guitar when I was 22 years old. And up to that point, I'd banged on a drum a little bit here and there, and I blew on some harmonica that my grade 7 teacher showed me how to do. Old Doug Davis, he was a real blues head, and he was my social studies teacher. But as much as he would sit there and teach us about the world and all this, you know, social studies criteria, he loved teaching us about, it was the first place I ever heard Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a really cool cat, and he was the first person that inspired me and actually brought me out of my shell. He might even have some funny recording of me that he wrote a song when I was about 13 years old for me to sing. And he had this really beautiful Rickenbacker guitar, and he played it, and he wrote this song with the lyrics on there, and he had me sing a few verses. And I remember, you know, first time I had headphones on, had a microphone, and I'm hearing my voice back, and it was shrilling. I hated the way it sounded. And I was trying to just do my best, and he stopped me, and he's like, "Come on, Willie, I hear you singing in the hallways and in class. Give me some of that." And I don't know if I delivered at the time. I can't remember how it all turned out. But he might have the very earliest recording of me doing any kind of a performance. And it was his own song too. But outside of school, influences, like really the most influential person was my father and my mother, just because how much they brought music into my childhood and my house from the time I was a kid. And my dad gave me a guitar, like I said, when I was 22, and it took me some time to finally get to learning, 7 basic chords, and then the minor chords were a whole new thing, man. I still don't even do proper bar chords. I was watching a video and watching Jimi Hendrix play, and I seen him wrap his thumb around the low E, and I was like, I could just do that. And then so it's worked for me ever since, and I've been criticized. I play with my bandmates, and they're like, I don't know what the hell chord. I'll do that again. Sometimes I'll play with my bandmates, and they don't know what chord I'm playing because I'll have, just my thumb in the way of things sometimes anyway. I guess I'm trying to say I took I feel like a rather unorthodox approach to how I learned how to play, even, and without any lessons. And, I had some chord charts to follow along with, but for the most part, just listening to all my favorite music and trying to figure out what they were doing. And when I finally got enough chords together and I started learning everybody else's songs, all my favorite songs, it started with like Hank Williams Jr. and Hank Williams Sr., Neil Young, and I learned some John Prine tunes and a little Leonard Cohen here and there, and of course Bob Dylan. Like right away I started learning all my favorite Bob Dylan songs, which is way harder to play than you think, especially if you're trying to make it sound anything like it sounds on the album, which I loved. I loved that my first introduction to trying to play music and learn music was all, flat tuning and open tunings and really obscure kind of nuanced vocals and stuff like that, because it kind of fits the way that I feel like I naturally play as well. And as soon as I could start playing, I did at some parties that I'd go to, and it'd be late into the night and everybody'd be feeling it and having a good time, and I'd pull out my Segovia. I had a Segovia that my dad gave me. That's the name of the guitar, and it had that beautiful tobacco sunburst on it, and it's got the exact same look. I have a J45. I went and got myself a Gibson after playing long enough, and it is the replica of the J45 that I now play, and I'd pull that out at some parties and start playing, and before long, some of the aunties there would start crying, and I could tell I was doing a good job, and they would say, oh, that was beautiful, and give me some praise for it, and that felt good. And not long after that, folks started hearing that I could play songs, and then they started inviting me to come and play at funerals of all things, and I became somewhat of a funeral singer back home. And I'd get up there, and I'd have to get up in front of my friends and family and my community, and we'd lose somebody that was very near and dear to us, and my job would be to get on up there and help everybody get through that difficult time. And it was it had a very profound impact on me, and it was quite the experience. I'm very thankful for it. That was really the first place I ever got my start singing songs for crowds, and it's something that I still talk about it every time I go and play shows. And I wrote a song about it, kind of called Sad Songs. So like I say, like it was a bit of a long way around, but I couldn't have chose a better way to go, because it gave me an awful lot of stories to tell too. So, which I could definitely just keep on doing if you want to, Tanner.
Thanks for tuning in for part 1 of our interview with Willy Big Bull. The action continues in part 2.
Well, thank you very much.